This video is going to be a film study focus on Zach Charbonnet's career day in Week 14 as the Seattle Seahawks went on the road and defeated the Cardinals 30-18. Charbonnet produced 193 yards from scrimmage, career-high rushing yards along with 7 catches, 59 yards. He was a big factor. His agility, his patience, willingness to stay behind blockers on those counter schemes I think was important. If you didn't already do so, please consider checking out a film study video that I put out on Monday about the counter scheme that Charbonnet and Kenny McIntosh used to produce 176 yards combined. Also, I want to talk about the improved offensive line play, number one, and the trickle-down effect that has on the rest of the team, but specifically Geno Smith. So in order to do so, I think I have to go through some stats real quick before we get to the film. When the Seahawks win streak began, their 20-17 win over the 49ers, they ran for 94 yards. The next week, the 16-10 win over the Cardinals, the first one, total of 65 rushing yards. Last week against the Jets, the 5-point win, 26-21, they ran for 84 yards. All told across those 3 games, you're talking about an 18-point differential for Seattle, close games. This one against Arizona, don't get me wrong, hard-fought, physical, and the Cardinals are a better football team, I think, in some cases than their record kind of illustrates. But because they ran for 176 yards, number one, didn't turn the football over. Number 2, ended up with a plus 55-yard run differential in terms of what Seattle was able to generate with the rushing game versus what the defense allowed Arizona to run for. Along with that, Geno Smith completed 24 of 30 passes for 80%, looked very efficient, still had to move around, navigate the pocket a few times, and make some really nice throws, particularly one to JSN on a 3rd down in the 4th quarter that was extremely important. But the largest factor here, I think, of improved offensive line play, more consistent rushing output, and perhaps a commitment to it, is you get a double-digit win, 30-18, and Geno Smith wasn't sacked one time this year. If they're able to keep up this type of production from an offensive line standpoint and run game once Kenneth Walker III returns, I think Seattle could be a different animal to deal with at the end of the season. What type of ceiling do they have? I have no idea. I just know that if you look at the stats from their 4-game win streak, if they're able to produce a rush game and protect Geno Smith at the same time while playing high-quality defense, they look like a team that I don't think very many people would like to face. All right, let's get to the film here, and this is all going to focus on Charbonnet. I have to digress a little bit, talk about the offensive line and the counter scheme. So this is first possession. Cardinals are up 7-0. And a really cool route here, if you ask me. I love these one-man screens. So Charbonnet is going to release to the top side to where the trips are. And oftentimes you'll see a fullback be the guy who's lead blocking. So you can see that you've got a route being run by 2 of the trips receivers. I think it's Fant and Lockett. And JSN's blocking downfield, first of all, but he's right at the line of scrimmage. So most teams use a tight end or a fullback to get this accomplished. So credit to Ryan Grubb for the design here, if you ask me, of utilizing a slot wide receiver, JSN, a guy who's surging statistically from an efficiency standpoint and clutch plays being made on 3rd down. And in this case, you're able to get an opening for Zach Charbonnet. Really nice design that's somewhat anomalous compared to what you see across the rest of the NFL when you see those one-man screens. Still the same possession. Look, Charbonnet had an impact in the pass game. Another 1st and 10. I think it's 2 plays after that one I just showed you. Play action to Charbonnet. And Arizona played a lot of this cover 3, where you've got 2 corners deep. Free safety, Budda Baker is off screen for you guys. He's off the frame to the right. And Geno Smith able to check it down underneath to Charbonnet, sliding just away from the pressure, 7 or 8 yard gain. This, to me, was an important element of what Seattle was able to accomplish. Geno Smith didn't have to dodge, juke, evade pressure 10 or 12 times. He did have to do it, I'd say, 4 or 5 times, but it wasn't nearly as often, number one. Number 2, when it did occur, guys like Charbonnet and JSN had made themselves available to get the catch in this case. And look, Charbonnet played a lot of snaps with Kenneth Walker III being out. And for him to produce a career-high rushing yards and have 7 catches for 59 yards, I think that's remarkable. I can't wait to see how they implement both of those guys at the same time. Still, first quarter, Cardinals are up 7-0. And another reception for Charbonnet. This one's designed. So it's a jet motion, jet-ish motion. Tyler Lockett pretty slow there going across. And Geno Smith is, let me pull that frame over for you guys, sorry. Geno Smith is faking to Charbonnet, and then he'll pull the ball back, get it out to him on a screen that ends up going for 20 yards. First of all, Charbonnet's got great vision. I think you saw evidence of that already earlier this year. Even though he had not approached this level of production, 193 total yards from scrimmage is pretty remarkable. And if you look at his game stats for his career in 2 years, it certainly doesn't fit. It's an explosion. But you could tell he was a big part of the game plan against Arizona because they were getting him the ball early and often, not just in the run game, but against the pass as well. And it also seemed like he just broke a lot of tackles. And he does this often, whether it's open field and compressed space. The first guy almost always misses, and when you give him a setup like this, I think that that's a recipe for success for Seattle. If he's got blockers out in front, he's just very adept at forcing guys to miss tackle, the second of which there obviously is Budda Baker, who led the game with 18 tackles overall. Really cool scheme here. We're still into the first quarter. I think this is after the second interception. So it's 10-7 Seahawks at this point. It's 12 personnel ace. So you've got two tight ends, one here to the right and one to the left in the form of Barner. Tight end on the right is going to motion across. And it's essentially a power play where the tight end, 86, is kicking out. I think that's Brown. And then the backside guard is pulling, 63. Charbonnet busts loose. I mean, really, he almost scores up the left sideline there for 20 yards. Power has the tight end or a fullback kicking out the edge defender. Backside guard is pulling and wrapping for the front side. Inside linebacker. In this case, there is no frontside inside linebacker, or there's no backside inside linebacker, because Arizona plays such a weird, anomalous defense at times. I'm not saying that's not effective at times in 2024, but I think that Seattle's run game really took advantage of their difficulty in staying sound at the second level of the defense. So there's the guard that's going to pull. And this is the backside inside linebacker who's trying to scream over the top side here and hit it. Great job by the front side offensive lineman. I think it's the left guard. So this linebacker is going to go over the top, but at a tight angle, and 70 is going to step down and crack him. And so once Charbonnet gets through here, there is just no one else there. There's no other support. The front side inside linebacker ends up pinned by Barner. Charbonnet takes it outside. It might have been more than 20-yard gain. Watching it live, I thought he was going to score. And really, to that point, first quarter, you're already rolling offensively, particularly Charbonnet in the run and the pass game. He's got multiple touches. The early play calls clearly was designed to get him the football. I want to talk about this one and then refer back to a play from last week against the Jets. I actually did a One Play Wednesday video about this concept. So Seattle's going to shift here. I don't pretend to know exactly who this fullback is here, to be honest with you. But he's utilized as bait here. Last week when they ran this formation, this was Charbonnet, and the motion man was Kenneth Walker III. Oftentimes he was lined up to the side of the wing, the tight end. I want to point out and talk about this attached tight end here a little bit during this breakdown. This is his fourth touch in a row, his being Charbonnet, of the drive. And this puts him up, I believe, 17-7. 4 plays in a row he gets the football, either through the course of pass plays, the screen, and or run plays. The power gets him down here. He's able to convert this, get him into the end zone on a jet sweep concept. Same play from the end zone angle. You'll see the shifting nature of it. So these tight ends being attached together is, in my opinion, designed to, first of all, get them close together. It's a framework for the outside tight end. This is how close we want you to be. Some people do 6-inch splits with your toe to heel. Some people do a little bit wider, teach different things one by one. In this case, they've just got him attached, literally, by putting his hand on the guy's calf. Another reason that I think they're doing this is so that the outside tight end can feel when the inside tight end moves. So basically, as soon as that inside tight end steps to the outside tight end is working as well. It's a jet sweep. So 38 is the lead blocker. The outside tight end, Barner, is stepping out. I think this is Fant trying to reach / hook. 38 is leading. I mean, come on. You didn't think that 38 was going to get the football on the dive, right? Again, I don't pretend to know who he is, but it's the fullback number. Compare it to last week against the Jets on the 4th and 1, where Seattle ends up taking the lead in the fourth quarter. Very similar formation. The only difference is that in this case, Kenneth Walker III is on the side of the attached tight ends. I do think there's the possibility for a tell here in terms of where the football is going. First of all, personnel tendency or tip. Second of all, the attached tight end nature. When you get the end zone angle, if you can't see it, I'll pull the screen over so you guys can get a really good look at it. That one put Seattle up, basically provided the winning margin. There's the attached tight ends. So what I'm saying is, by personnel alignment, basically where Charbonnet or Kenneth Walker are, along with the attached tight ends, could essentially give you, the fan or other teams' defenses, a pre-snap indicator of where the football is going. They're not going to run the jet sweep, no matter who it is, over here, where you don't really have an extra blocker to get out in front, number one. Number two, the fullback, running back, whatever you want to call him, is on the wrong side. Meaning, think of Charbonnet's touchdown that we're focusing on against the Cardinals. 38's feet was over there. Charbonnet ran the sweep to that side so that 38 could be used as a lead blocker. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense and explained it in a concise enough fashion. You guys let me know in the comment section if you think I skipped over it or missed some of the elements that kind of contribute to that being a really great, and if you ask me, short yardage option for Seattle right now in a situation where I think for parts of the year they've had difficulty in those moments because of the lack of push, if you will, by the offensive line, whatever you want to call it, lack of talent. That little short yardage set, that goal line formation, has really given them opportunities, I think, to convert at a higher percentage, at least the last 2 weeks. All right, so moving forward here, this is going to be the touchdown by Charbonnet late in the second quarter. Huge moment, 51 yards. Again, he's a big part of the game plan, if you ask me, but why does this scheme work? Well, number one, I think he's got great patience, meaning you've got a pulling guard and then the pulling backside tackle who's going to wrap, and Charbonnet, is willing to wait. I would call him a buck sweep back, and some of you that have a wing tee background understand what I mean, and some perhaps won't. Some guys on the buck sweep, they try to hit it too soon, and things can get kind of clogged up. He seems to be a guy who understands what gear he's got to be in from here to somewhere in that area. He doesn't necessarily have to be in fourth or fifth gear right now. He can kind of wait and then hit it. And he's a guy that breaks tackles. When he gets going downhill, real load to try to tackle and deal with. That was a huge moment. Put them up 24-10 after Arizona had been able to close to 17-10. Certainly looks like Geno's making a check here. And I didn't deal with it necessarily a moment ago from the All-22 angle, but I did specifically on the counter video that I put out on Monday when Noah Fant in trips is the number 2 receiver and they're out wide, meaning you can't see JSN or Fant in this picture. You only have the offensive line, quarterback, and running back. This was a 100% run, at least against Arizona on Sunday. It's a 2nd and 5 after a short run by Charbonnet. I talked about it in the counter video. Really great job by Charles Cross. This defensive end is crossing his face. He's initially thinking, okay, I'm going to down block this 4-eye. I'm going to get him out of there. And the run is going to go off tackle. It's going to go outside of that down block. Well, the tackle steps out, steps away from the football, and so Cross releases him, first of all, and then goes to chip combo on the nose tackle. And then the third element of this from a Charles Cross perspective is he is the guy who gets the backside safety that Charbonnet is able to cut off of and take it to the house. Great moment, if you ask me, for Charles Cross. I understand there's been some inconsistencies in his career so far, be it either through injuries or performance on the field. I thought this was a great opportunity for Seahawks fans to see what he's capable of in the run game here. They're being given an advantageous front that should be quite obvious to anyone who's got a football background in terms of where Arizona is lining up. But getting back to Charbonnet, the trust, the patience, and the understanding of the concept, meaning I don't have to hit this 100 miles an hour right now. I don't need to be in fifth gear initially. I've got to wait, be a little bit more patient, let that backside tackle get there, and then work off that block. And in this case, I think it's the perfect combination, along with his burst, athleticism, and ability to kind of run through tackles, run through contact. Moving forward to the third quarter, this is the first play of the third quarter, 21 personnel, so they're running the same concept, counter, into the boundary. Notice there's a two-gap bubble here by Arizona. So this is what I mean when I say some of the things they do. They're reliant on their safeties to get involved in a run fit. When you have a two-gap bubble, essentially you're offering to the offense, hey, here's a space where you might be able to run the football more effectively because there's so much room between two defenders. So we're talking about this D tackle and that D end. Sure, there's people who are going to say, well, this inside linebacker is responsible for B gap, and this corner is responsible for C gap. Absolutely. Yep, you can say that. Counter scheme coming back to the boundary. Charbonnet ends up getting 6 yards. The Cardinals, are trying to destroy this from the backside with the blitz by Budda Baker. So the way this works is the D-end outside linebacker would be on Geno Smith if he keeps it, and then Budda Baker, since it's counter, is going to run down the line of scrimmage. The heels of the defensive line stay tight behind that puller, and he does get a piece of Charbonnet, who's just got brilliant contact balance, able to kind of skip through it. You can see him. He anticipates Budda Baker being there and elevates to get off the ground so that essentially Budda Baker is unable to make the tackle. It only goes down for a 6 or 7 yard gain into the boundary. First play of the third quarter. So it's a different personnel group, different formation, but really the same counter concept that they were relying on in the first half and that Charbonnet took to the house. Later on that drive, look, he had 7 catches for 59 yards, like I said, and a lot of them were of this type of variety. This is supposed to be a cover 3. You can see Budda Baker is pushing the inside linebacker. Well, he's telling him. He's not physically pushing him, but he's trying to push him over to the right hash for the offense. Charbonnet catches it underneath of where that inside linebacker would be, and you'll see those two guys communicate after the play, trying to get on the same page, correct him, and let him know, hey, we needed you in that area. To focus this on the Seahawks, though, Geno Smith has a lead. He's playing comfortable, meaning he's not pressured too often. And so he's making the smart play, getting the ball out, getting yards, putting them in a position where they can get points, which is exactly what happened on this drive. They go from 24-10 and have to settle for a field goal to make it 27-10. This is what you want, I think, as a Seahawks fan. You want, and this is probably what you foresaw before the season when Mike Macdonald showed up to presumably improve the defense, and you have Kenneth Walker III and Zach Charbonnet coming back. You would like to say, we're going to have a consistent run game. We're going to control the ball, not turn the football over. Well, that hasn't happened, obviously. The offensive line struggles have been well documented. Geno Smith at this point has 12 interceptions. Even though he's gone through some stretches where he's been extremely high % completion rate, to me, the larger factor for this Seahawks team with the quality of defense and athletes that are out there is don't turn the football over. Hopefully don't take sacks. As long as the offensive line's playing like this and the run game can generate something, anything close to what Charbonnet and Kenny McIntosh were able to get involved on Sunday, then I think you got a winning formula. Still 24-10. This is 2nd and 2. It's the very next play. In fact, this is what I was talking about earlier. Fant as the number 2 receiver in trips, so it's 11 personnel, and you've got JSN as the number 3 receiver. Number 2 is Fant, and then the number 1 is the outside receiver, Lockett, who obviously didn't get many targets. I mean, maybe he's the odd man out when you get so much of a focus on the run game. And that's okay. He can still make big plays. He almost did in the fourth quarter. Look how patient Charbonnet is. He's not trying to even, I don't even think he's in third gear here. He's just waiting for the moment to burst, and then he understands, hey, if you're going to run into a collection, a wall of NFL defenders, then you've got to run incredibly hard. You've got to be physical, number 1. Number 2, you've obviously got to protect the football. A couple of other plays here. I think this is a gimme. To be honest with you, it's a 3rd and 25. I mistakenly identified this as counter. I'll let you see it one time through so you can kind of fall under the same trap, if you will, as I did. Seattle's up 27-18 here, 3rd and 25, so we know that they're going to punt. And like I said, I mistakenly identified this as counter. I still think it displays Charbonnet's toughness, his ability to break tackles, but this is trap. This is not counter. So it's an influence trap. The front side guard, I don't have the end zone angle of this one, by the way. My apologies. Is going to pull to the edge, presumably to kick the edge defender. And then the backside guard, the right guard here, is going to pull and go to kick this D tackle right here. I'll slow it down and let you guys see it because, like I said, I don't have the end zone angle. They're also leaving the backside D tackle unblocked. I did see this earlier in the game, and I thought it was trap read, which is sick. I don't think it's trap read. I just think they're leaving the backside D tackle unblocked as well, and Charbonnet just makes him miss with the stiff arm. So that's ridiculous on a 3rd and 25 that Arizona shows. This does not reflect well on the offensive line on this particular one. Arizona shows this look. Look, there's 2 safeties off screen for you. That's how deep they're playing. Charbonnet still turns this into, I believe, an 18-yard gain, but he had to deal with an unblocked defensive tackle, number one, and then an unblocked edge defender / defensive end break 2 tackles before he even gained 5 yards. Turns it into, like I said, I think it's 18 yards all the way down to midfield. Like I said, I misidentified that as counter. It's trap. If you'd like to see a breakdown of that, maybe I can put that on Twitter or something like that to illustrate the difference between counter and trap. 2nd and 10 later on in the 4th quarter. And he's just going to sit under the zone to the boundary. I think he's got really nice receiving skills. And for me, this play kind of illustrates it. There is pressure on Geno Smith. Man, the trust to throw that high with zone defenders behind him. There's a lot to be said there. This is a blitzing inside linebacker, a Buda Baker sitting down on JSN. Also, you've got a curl flat defender to deal with DK. Pretty much everything's covered up. So Geno does a nice job of getting through things quick. The progression, getting from one to the other very fast. Down here to the bottom side, 1, 2, not there, come all the way back. And this throw to Charbonnet is high. Great hands to go get it, number one. Number two, he's one of those guys that the moment his foot hits the ground, he's ready to roll, meaning he's ready to gain yards. Not to the same degree or same level as JSN. I think JSN is very unique in that way, and that he catches the ball and he's immediately ready to gain yards. I would almost say that it reminds me of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Charbonnet doesn't have that same type of skill, don't get me wrong, but it's comparable because of the fact that he's a running back. And then finally, the last running play here is a 3rd and 2. This is at a point when the last 3 runs for Seattle hadn't generated much at all. And just what is Arizona doing on a 3rd and 2 when Seattle is giving you the same formation, 11 personnel, tight end as the number 2 receiver, B, so the running back is away from the trips on 3rd and 2, and you are threatening a blitz and then flying 2 safeties out of there. You'll get the end zone angle in a moment. So for me, for us, the way that we were taught to count players, this is 7 on 5 in this little box here that I just drew. And Seattle's been able to execute this all day long, this counter scheme. In this case, Charbonnet gets a tough 10 yards. The Seahawks, are able to turn this into a field goal later on. I thought it was the right call. There's about 4:30 left in the game here. What is Arizona doing? What's their concept for getting the ball back to their team down 9? If it's 3rd and 2, and you're not saying, hey, we're going to stop the run, we're going to force you to beat us with someone. I get it. You got DK Metcalf out on the field, so that's a part of the equation. Almost seems like a little bit of dereliction of duty for me. Like I said, it's 4:25 left. Previous 3 runs for Seattle had netted, I think, 1 yard, 0 yards, and 2 yards, so not much at all. This 3rd and 2 finishes the game, essentially gets them either down in field goal range or right at the cusp of field goal range. Arizona's got 2 guys on quarterback. One here, and then this defensive tackle, since he's being back blocked by the center, maybe he's being walked into or forced into being on quarterback. Just a really, I think, unusual way to try to defend the actual plays that Seattle was running, not to try to minimize Charbonnet's impact and say, oh, this isn't going to happen again, because he played really well, number one. Number two, you do play the Cardinals twice a year. Maybe they learn from it. Maybe they don't. I thought that it was an excellent example of, first of all, a guy taking advantage of opportunity. I am glad for you as a Seattle fan that you have Kenneth Walker III and Zach Charbonnet. So, and I'm not going to step into, nor do I care, who gets more targets, who should be the, quote, lead back. I think it's great that you have both of them, and that you have both of them at such a young age. It's a blessing. You have a guy who's very patient, can stay on his tracks, understands the scheme in Charbonnet, willing to follow his blocks, and then the burst, the athleticism to be able to break tackles is pretty obvious in the film, number one. It helped him to produce, I think, a career-high 134 yards rushing, 59 yards receiving. You would take 193 total yards from the combined output of Charbonnet and Walker, I think, every week. And in this case, you got it from one of those guys. It's a blessing to have both of them. I have no idea when Kenneth Walker III will be back. I hope it's soon for you guys. The game against the Packers is going to be difficult. I would love to get out a preview, but it will be later in the week. The amount of things that I'm involved in that I'm trying to accomplish, it's borderline impossible for me to get that done. If you'd like for me to try to do something like that, please let me know in the comment section, and I will. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section. If you're not aware, likes and comments drive engagement for the videos. So the more you like a video and or comment on it, it helps YouTube push the video out to larger audiences and helps us as content creators, obviously by generating more revenue, number one, which justifies our time spent on some of these videos in the first place. If you think other Seattle fans would enjoy this film study look at Zach Charbonnet's career day against Arizona as Seattle moved to 8-5, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.